Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty fascinating. It's the sophisticated psychological setup needed, really, to make someone, or even yourself, change a fundamental belief or behavior or, well, their whole reality.
Yeah, it's about those massive shifts. And we're talking about methods designed to truly transform how someone sees the world, not just, convince them on the surface.
Right, because resistance to that kind of change, it's huge. We've all felt it.
Exactly. And what the source material we looked at shows is that this resistance, it isn't really logical thinking. It's deeper. It feels almost instinctual,
Instinctual? How so?
Well, our minds seem hardwired to value certainty, comfort. And we defend those states quite aggressively, even as sticking with them actually keeps us stuck in a bad place.
Okay, so our mission today is to explore the ways around that defense mechanism. We're going to break down this technique called breaking Plato's cave.
Right, which is all about disrupting that comfortable certainty, creating an opening.
And then there's what comes next, which seems just as critical. The grief model. That's the pipeline, apparently, for handling the emotional loss that comes with change.
It really boils down to this one core idea. If you look at the word itself, decide, its root literally means to cut off.
To cut off.
Wow. Yeah. So any real decision forces you to cut off another path, maybe an old identity or the belief you held. And that registers in the brain, emotionally too, as a loss. You're grieving the old you or the potential you're letting go of. And if that grief doesn't get processed, the decision often doesn't stick. People revert back.
That completely reframes things, doesn't it? The decision isn't the hard part. It's dealing with the loss that's the hard part.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's start this journey then. Phase 1, breaking Plato's cave. The goal here, as you said, is moving someone, taking them from being certain to maybe curious, then a bit doubtful.
And eventually towards feeling empowered to choose something new.
Right, but gently.
Oh, absolutely gently. The source material is really clear on this. You can't just confront someone head on. That just makes the walls go up immediately.
So instead,
you use things like metaphor, non-threatening questions. You're sort of softening the ground first.
Oh, okay. And the sources also mentioned this works best when combined with other concepts, like fate, which we'll get to.
Yes, it stacks. But even on its own, this breaking the cave idea is powerful for shifting perception.
So how does it start? You mentioned non-threatening questions.
Right. Initial questions.
Yeah.
They're designed to be really low-key, just sparking a little curiosity, hinting maybe that there's more to reality than the everyday view. It encourages introspection, but doesn't demand an answer right away.
Gotcha. Like what sort of questions?
Well, think about synchronicities. You might ask something like, have you ever had one of those moments?
Yeah.
Where things seemed way too coincidental to be just random, like the universe was trying to tell you something.
Okay. Most people have felt that.
Exactly. It's common. But phrasing it like that, asking about its inexplicable accuracy, it just plants a tiny seed. A seed of doubt about reality being totally simple and predictable.
Or you could focus on internal stuff, maybe, like time.
Perfect example. Has time ever just warped for you? Sped up, slowed down, maybe disappeared entirely when you were really absorbed in something? Why is our sense of time so flexible?
You're pointing out little cracks in their solid view of reality. Shared mysteries.
Exactly. Establishing that their current picture might be incomplete.
Okay, so you evoke that sense of mystery. Then what?
Then phase 1 moves into priming stories. This is where metaphor comes in really strongly. It lets you explore deeper truths without it feeling like a direct challenge. It speaks more to the subconscious.
Lowers resistance that way.
Precisely. The conscious mind's defenses aren't triggered in the same way.
Let's use that classic example from the source material. The elephant and the rope.
Yeah, that's a great one. So the story goes, a baby elephant is tied by a rope to a small stake. It struggles, pulls, tries everything, but it's too small. It fails again and again.
And eventually it just stops trying.
It learns it can't break free. Now, fast forward. The elephant is huge, immensely powerful. It could snap that rope, rip the stake out, easy, but does it try?
No, because it believes it's still tied by the same old limitation.
It's captive to an outdated belief, a perception frozen in time.
And that connects to our own minds. How?
Well, it connects directly to how our brains work. Neuroscience tells us something pretty staggering.
Right.
Your brain takes in something like 11 million bits of information every second, every single second.
11 million. Okay.
But consciously, we process maybe 50 bits.
50 out of 11 million. That's tiny.
It's incredibly selective. Your brain is constantly filtering, editing reality, basically, to create a picture that feels safe, that makes sense, that's predictable.
So wait, The elephant is only paying attention to the, 50 bits that confirm its old belief, I can't break the rope.
Exactly. And it's ignoring the other, 10.99 million bits screaming, "You're enormous now, you can do this."
Wow. Okay. So the brain is editing out almost everything just to keep a story going.
A comfortable story. And that leads straight to the big question this method pushes. How much of what you think is real is just your brain filling in the blanks based on old stories? If it's editing so much, how sure can you be you're seeing the full picture?
That's unsettling.
It is. And it's the perfect bridge to the big one, Plato's cave.
A classic allegory. Prisoners chained up, only seeing shadows on a wall, thinking that's reality.
Right. And when one prisoner gets freed, dragged out into the sunlight, it's painful, blinding, terrifying at first.
And when they try to go back and tell the others,
They're mocked, rejected. The others prefer the comfort of the known shadows to the, frankly, frightening truth of the real world outside.
So that story mirrors the journey someone goes through with this method, the fear, the resistance.
Absolutely. They're afraid of the sunlight, maybe their own potential, or a different way of living. And on a more modern level, this also brings up the whole illusion of choice.
Like how algorithms feed us what they think we want.
Exactly. Social media, news feeds, unseen forces are constantly shaping what we see, what we desire, maybe even what we believe. We think we're choosing freely, but are we?
So if that happens with our online stuff, the implication is maybe it happens with our big life choices too, our core beliefs.
That's the question, isn't it? How much of my life, my desires, my identity is maybe shaped by invisible forces, influences that convince me I'm still tied to that little rope, like the elephant.
Okay. That feels like a natural point to shift gears. That's leading into phase 2, right? Introducing actual doubt.
Yes. You soften the ground, now you start gently prompting more direct questioning. Still subtle, though.
How does that sound in practice?
You might use phrases designed to make them question norms, their own autonomy. Like, it's kind of weird when you think about it, isn't it? How much of what we do every day is just habit, not really a conscious choice we remake each morning.
Okay, gentle nudge.
Or maybe, have you ever seriously wondered how much of your life path was kind of set by things you couldn't see or control back then? Still observational, not accusatory.
Softening that attachment to I'm fully in control and know everything.
Exactly. Then you can dial it up a bit. Use cognitive dissonance, point out potential contradictions, introduce doubt more directly.
Okay, now we're challenging things more.
Yeah, you might ask something like, what if, just hypothetically, everything you currently believe about, say, success or maybe love, what if that was mostly just given to you, like downloaded by culture, family, whatever, instead of something you actively discovered or designed for yourself?
Oof. That hits at the foundation, asking, is this really mine?
Right. Or you can frame it about other people to make it safer.
Why do you think most people don't really, deeply question their core beliefs? Is it fear, do you think? Fear of the unknown? Or is it just easier, more comfortable to stay put?
Okay, so you're preparing them, setting the stage for something bigger.
Exactly. Because the next step is the most, let's say, disruptive part of the method. It's called creating the gap.
Creating the gap sounds jarring.
It is, intentionally. This is where you create a moment of disorientation. You use a really profound, maybe even shocking question to shake their worldview. But, and this is critical, you immediately follow it with an empowerment reframe. Immediately.
Wait, why the shock? If the goal is empowerment, why not just, give them the positive message? Skip the disorientation.
Because the old reality, that comfortable certainty, needs a little wobble. It needs to be destabilized just for a moment so the new perspective has space to land. You need to create a vacuum, a gap for the new possibility to rush in. If they're perfectly stable, perfectly comfortable, there's no room, no perceived need for change. Okay, destabilize to create an opening. So give me an example of a gap question.
A classic one is, how do you know, really know, that the life you're currently living isn't just someone else's dream that you're trapped in?
Whoa. Okay, yeah, that's a reality shaker. That could send someone spiraling if you just left it there.
Exactly why the reframe has to be instant and powerful. So right after that, you say something like, but now, just imagine. Imagine if you could actually wake up from that dream and you get to choose, consciously choose every single detail of your own reality from this moment on.
Okay. You take the shock and immediately pivot to potential, to agency.
Yes, from passive victim of a potential illusion to active creator.
Give me another gap phrase example.
Okay, how about one that challenges identity? What if the person you think you are right now, all your strengths, your perceived weaknesses, your personality, What if that's just a character?
Right.
A role someone else, maybe society, maybe your past, created for you through expectation
Another big one, challenging the self.
and the instant reframe. But here's the amazing news. You are the author. You get to write the script from this page forward. If the character you've been playing doesn't fit anymore, doesn't serve who you want to become, you have the power right now to write a brand new one.
Okay. So we've used Plato's cave ideas. We've used questions, metaphors, created this gap, this moment of disorientation paired with empowerment. The cave walls are cracked. There's an opening. They're maybe a bit unsteady, but hopeful.
Exactly. And that's when you introduce phase 3, the grief model. This is the engine for making the change stick. It's how you guide them through processing that inevitable emotional loss we talked about.
Right, the cutting off. This model helps manage that grief productively.
Precisely. The goal is to quickly and effectively escort them through that whole emotional roller coaster of loss, so they land in acceptance and feel energized, not get stuck cycling through denial or anger or depression.
Makes sense. And to do that well, you first need to know what they're actually losing, right? What specific things they need to grieve cutting off.
Yes. And that's where another model, the fate model, comes in handy. It helps predict the specific unconscious fears tied to making a big decision.
Fate. Okay, what does that stand for?
Focus, authority, tribe, and emotion.
Okay, focus, authority, tribe, emotion. Let's make that concrete. Say someone's thinking about quitting a safe, maybe boring corporate job to start their own risky passion project. What are the fate fears there?
All right, so focus fear. They're unconsciously afraid that starting this new thing means they'll have way too much to juggle, too many new things demanding their attention. They fear being overwhelmed, that their mental bandwidth just won't cope.
Okay, cognitive overload fear. Makes sense. What about authority?
Authority fear could be worrying about losing the status or respect they had in the old job. Or it could be the fear of, say, angering or disappointing an authority figure, maybe their old boss, maybe even their spouse, who valued the security of the old job.
Right, letting someone down. And tribe, that sounds like social fear.
Exactly. Fear of isolation. They worried their current tribe, their colleagues, their professional network, maybe even friends who knew them in that old role, will judge them, reject them, or not understand. They fear being cast out.
That's a powerful one. And the last one, emotion.
Emotion is often the deepest. It's this underlying fear that disrupting established patterns, even unhappy ones, will somehow put them in greater danger. The known misery feels safer than the unknown future. It's a fear of emotional instability.
So fate helps pinpoint what specific losses need grieving.
Yes. Once you have a sense of those likely fears, you can then apply the grief model much more effectively.
And this model uses the classic 5 stages of grief.
That's right. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But it pairs each stage with its specific interrogation protocol, basically. A way of responding that balances acknowledging the emotion with providing a logical counterpoint or reframing.
Emotion and logic working together. Okay, walk me through it. Stage 1.
Stage 1 is awareness. The person is feeling the first resistance, the denial. This change isn't necessary, it won't work, etc. The protocol here is socialize.
Socialize, meaning?
Meaning you normalize their feeling. You say something like, yeah, it's totally normal to feel resistant right now. Honestly, most people feel exactly like this when they're facing a big, important change.
Okay. Reduces the feeling of being alone or weird for resisting. Takes pressure off.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Next, stage 2, confrontation. This is where anger often shows up. Frustration, maybe blaming you, the situation themselves. The protocol is rationalize.
So you argue back.
No, not argue. You don't engage the anger directly. Instead, you offer a logical perspective. Something like, look, I completely get why this feels frustrating right now. But let's be honest for a second. If you look at where staying in that old pattern has actually gotten you up to this point, can you really keep doing things the exact same way and expect a different result?
Gently challenging the logic behind staying put without dismissing the feeling. Okay? Stage 3.
Stage 3 is negotiation, which corresponds to bargaining. They start trying to find loopholes. Maybe I can do this new thing, but still keep one foot firmly in the old world. Can't I just change a little bit? They're trying to cling to the familiar.
And the protocol.
Minimize.
Yeah.
You gently minimize the perceived value or necessity of clinging to that old pattern. You point out it's actually the anchor holding them back.
How would you phrase that?
Maybe. I know holding on to that piece feels safer, more comfortable, but think about it. When you keep holding on to that familiar thing, even just a little bit, isn't it really just acting like a safety brake? It keeps you tethered to the very spot you're trying so hard to leave.
Making the cost of clinging clear. Okay, after bargaining comes the dip.
Yeah, stage 4, emotional release. This maps onto depression in the grief model. Real sadness, a feeling of loss, mourning the end of the old way or the old identity. This is a critical point. The protocol here is project.
Project what?
You validate the sadness, absolutely crucial, but you gently project the feeling onto the process of change itself, not onto the decision being wrong.
Tricky distinction. How does that sound?
You might say, it's completely okay to feel sad right now. It's natural to mourn what you're letting go of. But please hear this. This difficult feeling, this sadness, it doesn't mean you're making the wrong choice. It actually means you're growing. It's the feeling of stretching into a bigger version of yourself.
Reframing the pain as growing pains, not a sign of error. Very important.
Very. And that leads, hopefully, to the final stage, stage 5, breakthrough. This is acceptance. They've moved through the resistance, processed the core of the loss. They're ready. The protocol is pure empowerment.
Sealing the deal.
Exactly. You strongly reinforce the new path, emphasize the freedom they've gained, the opportunity ahead because they went through the hard emotional work. Like, look at you now. You faced the tough part, that emotional wall, and you came through it. This is where it gets exciting. This is where you stop just reacting to the old stuff and start actively creating something completely new.
Wow. Okay, the elegance there is seeing how these methods stack. You use the Plato's cave approach first to crack open their reality, create that essential, maybe slightly disorienting opening.
Right. Create the need and the possibility for change.
And then immediately you provide this grief plus interrogation structure as the pathway, the way to navigate the emotional fallout of actually walking through that opening.
Yes, it ensures that change isn't just an intellectual idea they agree with, but something they can actually integrate emotionally. It makes it stick, makes it real and lasting.
And this whole framework, it's not just for influencing others, is it? The source mentions self-application.
Absolutely. It's a really powerful tool for self-coaching, actually. They call it grief-conscious decision-making.
Grief-conscious decision-making, I like that.
So if you, the listener, find yourself stuck, procrastinating massively on a big decision, feeling that awful pain or paralysis, chances are that pain is the unprocessed grief. It's one or more of those fate fears screaming silently in the background.
So instead of just avoiding the pain or trying to power through it,
You intentionally walk yourself through the process. You consciously ask, okay, what am I denying here? Denial. What's making me angry or frustrated? Anger. What compromises am I trying to cling to? Bargaining. What sadness is underneath this depression? You actively address each stage within yourself.
using the questions or prompts we talked about, but on yourself.
Exactly. By bringing conscious awareness to that internal script, you diminish its automatic power over you. You guide yourself towards acceptance and empowerment.
That feels like real agency. Taking control of that internal process instead of being controlled by it.
That's precisely it. It's about understanding that the pain of cutting off the old is normal, necessary even, but manageable when you have the right framework.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought on this. If consciously recognizing and addressing these stages of grief around a decision can actually reduce their blocking power, then here's something to ponder. What major life decision, big or small, might you have been avoiding, maybe for years, simply because you haven't consciously given yourself permission to acknowledge and actually grieve the loss that decision represents?